Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
You may have just seen his recent segment on NFL Films on his great career, but he's also, for a guy that's in retirement, when you're Ray Didinger, you're going to end up being back. They're going to keep saying, come on, you got to come back, and then he's on NBC Sports Philly and WIP, so much for retirement. Ray, welcome. It is always great to have you with us.
Always good to be with you, Steve.
How humbling was it to have the NFL film segment?
Pretty humbling. I when they called up and said that they were doing a piece about me, I thought they were joking because I worked there for 12 years, so I knew all those guys. So I thought they were pulling my leg. I mean, come on, you're going to do a piece on me? I mean, you know what? Jim Brown wasn't available. I couldn't quite figure it out. I honestly thought they were kidding, but then they convinced me that it was for real, and they came and they did this piece about my career sort of winding down, and it turned out it was really beautiful. It was really, really nice. It aired on NFL Network and Fox Sports 1 in December, and I got tremendous feedback from it. I mean, I heard from people I hadn't heard from in years all over the country that, you know, NFL Films has quite a reach. So I heard from a lot of people who really enjoyed it. So it was a surprise, but it was really nice.
Was there anything in it where it touched you more than anything else? Maybe something you hadn't known and hadn't heard from somebody before?
I think reinvoking my relationship with Tommy McDonald was probably the most touching part of it. I mean, the whole idea that when I was a 10-year-old kid, I went to Eagles training camp and asked for his autograph, and he let me carry his helmet, and it was something that we did over the course of his whole time with the Eagles. I would go back to training camp and I would meet him, and he was just so nice to me. In addition to being a great player and my boyhood hero, that we actually kind of forged that sort of relationship, and then it continued on in the years after he retired and I got into the business, and then we wound up becoming friends, and I sort of led the campaign to try and get him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And when he got voted in 1998, he asked me to be his presenter. So, having that whole experience with Tommy, which has always been, just a wonderful memory for me, to see it as a big part of that show, and then see the old footage, the old black and white footage of Tommy doing his thing at Franklin Field, that was really pretty great.
It was interesting. A few weeks ago, I saw Dana O'Neill from The Athletic, and she doesn't cover the Eagles. She covers college basketball and does it brilliantly.
Yeah.
But I asked her, I said, what's it like around the city right now with that team? And she says, I've never seen anything like this. Right. And of course, this is from a group that's won the Super Bowl, 6 years ago.
Right.
What do you think about the swirl around this team, just from the fan enthusiasm point of view?
Oh, it's great. It's great, and I think Dana's right. The mood of the city right now, the city really is on fire, and I think it's. I think part of it is that they're still riding the crest of the Phillies run.
Yeah.
When you think about it, I mean, the Phillies had just a great season that far exceeded anyone's expectations. And they called it Red October when they got to the playoffs, and everywhere you went in town, I mean, all you saw were people wearing Phillies hats and Phillies hoodies and sweatshirts, and anybody that watched any of those postseason games, I mean, you could just feel the electricity in the games from South Philadelphia. I mean, it just resonated through your TV set. So even though the Phillies came up short in the World Series, I don't think anybody was really disappointed. I mean, it was just sort of like, wow, that was a great run. But there was this tremendous level of energy in the city right then. And then the Eagles at that point, when that World Series ended, the Eagles were in the midst of their unbeaten streak. I mean, the Eagles were up to, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, whatever it was they got up to. So one thing just kind of fed into the other. Like the city was really all excited about what the Phillies were doing, and, when they got to the World Series and didn't quite get there, well, people just stepped right off of that one train and stepped on the other, and and the Eagles just went on from there. So I think that Dana's right. I think that this energy in the city and this feeling of optimism and pride really is very real here. And that's one of the reasons why it was so important for the Eagles to get that number 1 seed and get all home games, because anybody that's ever come to a sporting event in Philadelphia, be it the Phillies, be it the Flyers back in the day, be it the Eagles today, you know that coming in as a visiting team and coming into Philadelphia, it's not an easy trip, and a lot of times that those fans and that home field advantage can make a difference, and the Eagles are certainly counting on having that Saturday night.
As the season has gone on, Ray, where are the Eagles better than maybe, let's just pick a period in time. We'll go back to that mid-October area. Where are they better now than maybe mid-October?
Oh, boy. Better. Well, I think they're better. I think their run defense has improved. I think the mid-season acquisition of Linville Joseph and Ndamukong Suh has given them some real veteran strength and muscle in the middle of the defensive line. They drafted Jordan Davis with their first pick, the big, massive nose tackle from Georgia, who's a good player and was playing pretty well. But then he got hurt and he left. And when he went out, teams were running on the Eagles fairly successfully, actually. And Howie Roseman, the general manager, who's also had a great year, by the way, he went out and immediately within a week he signed both Joseph and Suh and brought them in and put them in the middle of the defensive line. And the defensive line has gotten better. The run defense has gotten better. And it's going to have to be this week, because anybody that's seen the Giants this year, that Saquon Barkley is back. After the bad knee injury and then the ankle injury last year, he didn't really look like the same player. And this offseason he worked really hard, and then all through the preseason he kept saying, you watch me, I'm coming back. The old Saquon is back. And if you've seen him, he is. I mean, he rushed for almost 1,400 yards this year, even sitting out the last game. And you saw a couple of those runs that he ripped off against the Vikings last week. That looked like the old Saquon Barkley. So if the Eagles are going to win this game on Saturday, everybody's talking about Daniel Jones and how great he played, and he did. But I think beating the Giants and stopping the Giants' offense really still starts with stopping Saquon Barkley.
I am personally familiar with Barkley's work, so yes.
I know you are.
So now let's go to the other side of the question. Back to mid-October. Does something concern you now about the Eagles that didn't really concern you in mid-October?
No, the health of two very, very key players, and that's Jalen Hurts and Lane Johnson. That is the biggest concern, because you're talking about mid-October. At that point, and really honestly through November, the Eagles were the best team in the NFL. And honestly, it wasn't even close. They weren't just the best team in the NFC; they were the best team in the league. And I don't think anybody would have argued that. Mm-hmm. They were number one in offense. They were number 2 in defense. They're on their way to 70 sacks. There wasn't anything they weren't really good at. They were number 1 giveaway takeaway. They were just dominant. There's no other way to describe it. They were just dominant to that point. But then, and they just killed the Giants up at the Meadowlands first week of December. So they scored 48. They could have scored 88 that day. They were just that much better. But then the next week they went to Chicago, and Jalen Hurts got hurt. And he was like really hurt. And then the next 2 weeks he sat out, and they had to play Gardner Minshew. They lost both of those games. They brought Hurts back for the final game of the regular season to nail down that number 1 seed, and the coaches put him on a real short playlist. They didn't let him do any running. They kept him in the pocket. It was a whole different Jalen Hurts. Now, it was good enough to win that game against the Giants JVs. But the question is, which Jalen Hurts is coming out the tunnel Saturday night? If it's the guy from October, November, then I think the Eagles are in good shape. If it's a guy who's going to have to be coddled and protected and not play his game, then it's a whole different team. Everything about this offense really revolves around the quarterback. He's been, I think that at the point where he went down, he was the MVP. As good as Mahomes has been, and he's great. If you go by the strictest definition of most valuable player, all you had to do was see the 2 games of Gardner Minshew to know how valuable Jalen Hurts is here. So they need to get that guy back by Saturday night.
Yeah, there's no question about that. You mentioned Howie Roseman earlier, and I'll go back to the night he drafted Devontae Smith, and he flipped with the Cowboys. And
right.
It applies to this game because Devontae Smith's going to be playing in this game, and Kadarius Toney's going to be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs in their playoff game.
Yeah.
What is it about the feel that Howie seems to have for personnel and construction that impresses you?
Well, I mean, there's two sides to the Howie coin here. I mean, he's had a great year this year and made some great moves. But, this is also the guy that drafted Jalen Reagor when he could have had Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is the same guy that drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside when he could have had D.K. Metcalf. So he's not infallible, okay? And the drafts have not been all that great. But when he's hit big. And listen, after last season, when the Eagles were into the offseason and everybody knew they had 3 first-round picks, I mean, there was a lot of chatter in Philadelphia about people saying, "Oh God, can't they please get rid of Howie Roseman? I mean, they got 3 first-round picks here. I don't want this guy making them," because everybody had seen Jalen Reagor, and everybody had seen J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and Sidney Jones, and all of these first and second-round busts, frankly, and they were terrified with the idea of Howie having getting 3 first-round picks and handing them to Howie Roseman. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, Marcus Hayes in the Daily News wrote it, and I think he was right about that. That in 1962, Aaron Judge hit nothing but home runs, and so did Howie Roseman, and that's really kind of true. I mean, just about every move. If every move he made in 2017 proved to be gold, and it did, and it led in the Super Bowl, it's been very much the same way this year. I mean, he turned one of those first-round draft picks into A.J. Brown, who's come in here and made an enormous contribution to the passing game. I mean, he came in here and in his first season as an Eagle broke the franchise record for receiving yards in a season, broke the record that was held by Mike Quick. And so he's been great. And Devontae Smith, you mentioned him, the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama, came in a year before that, and this year he caught 95 balls, which was the most catches in a season by an Eagles wide receiver. So Howie's made, he's had his mistakes, but boy, I mean, he's responsible for constructing this roster, and if they can get a healthy Jalen Hurts back under center on Saturday night, I think that this team has a really good chance to go into the big game.
I know I mentioned about the retirement part at the beginning of this, so I'm going to close with this. What is it about going to the stadium that still excites you to this day?
Oh, just the energy. Just the energy. I mean, I still feel going to the stadium now, game day, that just when I get within sight of the stadium and start to see the first rank of ticket scalpers, and you know you're getting close, I just get a Christmas morning kind of tingle, and that was the way it was when I was just a kid going to the games at Franklin Field, and I still feel it to this day. And regular season, postseason. Honestly, preseason even. I just love the game. I love the atmosphere. I love the excitement of it, and I never really lost that. So the opportunity to come back, and I sat out this regular season. I was a fan, like all the other fans, but the opportunity to come back and actually work the postseason here, when this team really does have a legitimate chance to go all the way, is very, very exciting. I can't wait till Saturday night.
Ray, thanks so much for your time. We always appreciate it. You're the best, and we appreciate every word we get from you.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, Steve. Say hi to my good friend Dick Girardi, okay?
I will. I'll see DJ Saturday. All right.
Okay, you do that. Take care, guys.